Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Lost in Video. In my last retrospective, we took a look at Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, a great family movie that I love very much and it's close to my heart. This time we're doing something a little bit different, a cult classic that I only just saw recently and fell in love with immediately. The name of this gem? You already know because you clicked the link. 1984's Trancers. Trancers is a science fiction film that combines elements of time travel, dystopia, and dark humor. Directed by Karl Casey, the film has since achieved cult status for its unique blend of gritty storytelling and 80s aesthetics that I immediately fell in love with when I watched it. You're going to hear a lot about cult classic status and 80s nostalgia in this retrospective because the movie is stuffed with it. Trancers was produced on a relatively modest budget of only $400,000, actually a testament to the filmmaker's ingenuity in creating a dystopian future as well as navigating the challenges of time-traveling storytelling. Karl Casey, a prolific filmmaker known for his work in the horror and science fiction genres, has built a legacy in the realm of independent cinema. His filmography spans several decades and encompasses a wide range of imaginative and often eccentric production. The film utilized practical effects and stop-motion animation for certain sequences, emphasizing creativity over big-budget CGI. The low-budget constraints forced the filmmakers to rely on practical effects, contributing to the film's gritty and authentic feel. The futuristic and dystopian Los Angeles of 2047 was brought to life through inventive set designs, using existing locations to creatively convey a sense of urban. Tim Thomerson stars as Jack Death, a hard-boiled cop/bounty hunter with a perm that could withstand a tornado. Tim Thompson was never on my radar until I saw this movie, and now, Jack Death is one of the most iconic movie characters that I've ever seen. Helen Hunt co-stars as Lena, a young punk rocker and Jack's unlikely ally in a battle through time. Her performance showcased her versatility even in the early stages of her career. Hunt gained widespread acclaim for her role as Jamie Buckman in the hit sitcom Mad About You, earning 4 Primetime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. She was also known for her roles in Twister, As Good as It Gets, and Pay It Forward, a movie that I love. Trancers features a supporting cast that complemented Thomerson's performance, including Michael Stefani as the villainous Martin Whistler and Ann Seymour as the elderly Hap Ash. The chemistry between the cast members added to the film's darkly humorous undertones. Michael Stefani was known for his work in theater. His theatrical background brought a certain intensity to the role of the time-traveling cult leader. Ann Seymour had a memorable role in a Twilight Zone episode titled The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, a classic installment of the iconic science fiction series. She also made appearances in Perry Mason, Gunsmoke, as well as other various television shows and films. Art LaFleur takes on the role of McNulty, a gruff but endearing police officer who both assists and annoys our protagonist, Jack Death, in his time-traveling mission. LaFleur's portrayal brings a sense of authenticity to the character, contributing to the film's overall ensemble chemistry. LaFleur's career is marked by his proficiency in both comedic and dramatic roles. He's perhaps best known for his performances in sports-themed movies such as The Sandlot and Field of Dreams. His ability to portray characters with a rugged exterior yet genuine warmth has made him a sought-after character actor in Hollywood. Trancers is filled with 1980s cultural references, from fashion choices to music, creating a nostalgic experience for audiences. Due to the success of Trancers, several sequels were made, creating a franchise with a rightfully dedicated fanbase. If you're enjoying this content, please give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on Trancers as well. Are you as big a fan of the movie as I am? Let me know in the comments. Now, back to the retrospective. The year is 2247. We see the opening credits positioned against a smoke-filled night sky as a future car pulls up to a diner. This neon-soaked future appears to be dystopic and grimy. Enter Tim Thomerson, our fearless, follically blessed hero Jack Death, a grizzled detective with a look that screams business in the front, apocalypse in the back. Death approaches a diner as his gravelly voice-over narration explains that he recently killed a cult leader that he'd been after for years. Since then, Death has been killing off remaining members of Whistler's cult who are brainwashed zombies. These zombies are known as Trancers, not really alive and not dead enough, as Jack Death explains. Already, I love the lighting and look of this movie. The future looks cool with neon lights and trashy smog visibly polluting the skies, just how I like it. Officer Jack Death enters the diner and orders some real coffee, which is apparently a rare and expensive commodity now, before hassling the only other customer in the establishment. This guy doesn't really want any trouble, but a person who does happens to be the seemingly sweet old lady who works at the diner. As Jack Death reveals, she is a Trancer, one of Whistler's cult zombies, and he has no choice but to take her out when she attacks him and tries to kill him. This fight scene is fun, as a random strobe light turns on when the old diner lady begins her attack on Jack Death. I don't know why some of the lights start flashing, but I'm glad they do because it looks cool. This Trancer is barking up the wrong tree, as Death really slugs her in the kisser despite being bitten, stabbed, and having boiling water thrown on him during the skirmish. Jack Death takes out his phaser gun, or whatever it is, and shoots, or as they call it, singes the zombie lady, whose body then turns red and disappears. Again, even though it doesn't look expensive or perfect in terms of visual effects, the movie looks like a dystopian incarnation of what these 80s filmmakers thought the future might look like way down the line. I just love the look of it. Outside the diner, Jack Death begins to get chewed out by his superior officer, McNulty. The reason for this seems to be that Jack Death isn't carrying out the assignments given to him by the police or captain, as he believes his time is better spent hunting down the remaining Trancers that are left from Martin Whistler's cult. He's given the ultimatum of following his orders or resigning from being an officer. Being the maverick that he is, Jack Death throws his badge out of his car window and takes off in his future car. McNulty notes that Jack Death used to be a good cop before his wife was killed by a Trancer. I say he's still a great cop. We next see Death swimming in the ocean, which has apparently flooded away most of LA. McNulty and some guards show up with a summons for Jack to meet with the council. Jack says he would rather spend his time discovering old underwater venues and scraping barnacles off old car license plates. Apparently a summons to meet with the council is the highest honor there is, at least according to McNulty. Jack Death doesn't care though, as he isn't interested in the summons, returning to officer duty, or having anything to do with the council. It isn't until McNulty reveals that Death's old nemesis, Martin Whistler, is actually still alive that Death decides to return. The revelation about Whistler gets Jack's attention, and so we next see him meet with the council, three people who apparently govern this entire futuristic society. However, when Jack Death meets them, there are only two council members present. This is because the first was already murdered by Whistler, who has traveled back in time to 1985 to kill the ancestors of the council members, thus eliminating their bloodlines and entire existence in the year 2247. When Death asks how we can be sure Whistler is alive, they show him a video hologram of Whistler saying that he is alive and that he is killing the council members as revenge for all the Trancer killings that Jack Death has been doing. So of course, Jack Death must travel back to 1985 as well, not so much motivated to save the council members, but more so to finally eliminate Whistler. The way the time travel works in this movie, your physical body does not travel back in time, but your mind and consciousness is transferred to one of your ancestors at the time that you're going back to, when you're injected with an antidote that transports your mind back to the ancestor's body. I know. Death finds out that Whistler has traveled back to 1985 in the body of a man named Whistler, who just happens to be a police detective. Surely a big hurdle for our hero to overcome. So the two remaining council members take Jack Death to a futuristic science lab type room where they show him the body of his arch nemesis Whistler. They explain to Jack that Whistler's body is more like a shell, an empty vessel in this state, but it must be preserved so that when Jack Death brings back Whistler to his own timeline, his body will be ready to stand trial and justice will be served by the book, the right way.
You're our only hope, and it's on my terms.
So yeah, Jack Death decides to go in a different direction, and after exploding and singeing the body of his arch nemesis, he gets a James Bond and Q-esque explanation of some gadgets that he'll be taking along with him on his journey. One is a revolver with a modified grip that contains the two antidotes that would bring back Jack Death and Whistler to their correct timeline, where Whistler is already dead now anyway. He also gets a watch with a button that will slow down time for everyone else around Jack, but give him 10 seconds of real time to do whatever he needs to do if he's in a jam. The council members ask Jack to protect their ancestors back in the 1980s since their lives depend on it and all. Council member Ash shows Jack that her ancestor was a baseball player, giving him a baseball card to find him. Spencer's ancestor, on the other hand, I guess was just some guy with an address. Death is then transported back into the body of his ancestor, who likely looks exactly the same as Jack Death, albeit without the cool scar on his face and a different hairstyle, just slightly. Jack really commits himself to trying not to act out of place, and I mean that with zero sincerity. While his ancestor Phil was in the middle of shaving when this transition occurred, Death also notices that he has a female companion at his residence too, Lena, played by Helen Hunt. Not exactly being slick, he mumbles things that wouldn't make sense to her and just says, yeah, whatever, to anything she says.
Phil, come on. You said that making love to me was like the ethereal union of two lost souls?
That it was.
What?
I mean, lost souls, yeah.
Apparently, Phil had a one-night stand with Lena and promised to give her a ride to work. Jack follows through with this promise, if only because he seems to need somebody to assist him in navigating LA while he continues his mission to stop Whistler. Death puts some stuff in his hair to slick it back because, as he says, dry hair is for squids. Squid is a slang term in the movie to describe a weak-minded person who can potentially be easily brainwashed by Whistler and sucked into his zombie cult. So Jack takes Lena to her work, where she's apparently an elf or something like that at a local mall, taking pictures of children sitting on Santa's lap. Jack tries to get Lena to help him, but at this point Death is spotted by jolly old Saint Nick, who has a small child on his lap telling him what he wants for Christmas. Santa stops caring about what this kid wants for Christmas once he sees Jack Death though, because this Santa Claus is actually a Trancer who throws the kid off of him and begins a fight sequence with Jack. This is hilarious just because it's Santa Claus versus Jack Death, but the fight doesn't last too long before Jack shoots Trancer Santa, ending the rampage at the mall that certainly must have traumatized all the kids there, although some seem to actually enjoy most of the fight. This altercation is enough to convince Leela that something crazy is going on, and so she doesn't protest too much when Jack grabs her and pulls her way to their escape from the mall during the shooting. We see Whistler, or now Detective Weissler, who notices Santa's body turning red and vanishing inside a body bag conveniently, so he knows Jack Death has come back in time for him. Nobody else notices that the corpse of the mall Santa has just glowed red and disappeared into ashes, which is weird, and also weird that it didn't even happen until it was already in the body bag, which seems inconsistent with how it happened to other people previously. The nice thing is, that doesn't matter one bit. It's not an important enough detail to matter when it comes to a movie like Trancers. Of course, Jack Death accidentally left the photograph of Council Chairman Spencer's ancestor at the scene of the Santa shooting, complete with the address Whistler needs to find and eliminate one of his targets. This is not good news for Chairman Spencer. Jack Death tracks down the ancestor, named Chris Avery, as he can still remember the address and what the ascendant looks like. Death finds him at his own tanning salon, where he tries to warn him that his life is in danger. While Jack is talking to Avery, Leela decides that she's had enough of this craziness and takes off, abandoning Jack Death. Honestly, she's been told by this guy that she just had a one-night stand with and just met that he's a cop from the future, so you really can't blame her. Avery invites Jack back to his office where they can discuss this murder business in private, but then he just tries to murder Jack because, you guessed it, Avery is already a Trancer. Poor Chris Avery had dry hair, which was our first red flag that he was indeed a squid. Avery locks Jack away in one of his tanning pods, which apparently can get so hot that they'll basically burn you to death. Lena changes her mind about abandoning Jack and returns to the tanning salon to find that Chris Avery has locked Jack in a tanning booth that will burn him alive, as well as taken his own life. So now that's 2 council members down. Not looking good for Jack's mission. While Jack and Lena are escaping the tanning salon, they run into Whistler as well as other police officers under his command. Whistler, of course, says he's after the Santa Claus killer and his accomplice, although we know he's really just after Jack Death and the council. Whistler commands his officers to shoot at Death and Lena, even though they're both unarmed and just standing there, and the officers seem happy to open fire. However, Jack uses his watch gadget to slow down time in perhaps the earliest version of a bullet time type sequence that I can think of seeing. Jack uses this opportunity to escape from Whistler with Lena, and the two of them plan their next move. That move ends up being going to a punk rock concert in Chinatown, I suppose because they wouldn't be expected to be seen there. Jack Death isn't sure what to make of punk rockers at the concert who, because it's Christmas, are playing a punk rock version of Jingle Bells that, at least to my ear, doesn't sound very good. Jack Death is down to rock though, despite remarking that the punk rockers look like Trancers. An ex-flame of Lena's begins to harass her at the concert, and then he makes a big mistake when he spits in Jack Death's face. Jack Death isn't afraid to be trifled with, however, and he knocks out the punk before doing a little bit of dancing. 3 more punks, this time presumably Trancers, come to pick a fight with Jack as well, and things don't look good with 3 against 1. Jack Death punches each guy in the face, however, and knocks them all out before he and his new girlfriend Lena make their exit from the venue. Since it's Christmas, back at Lena's cool-looking apartment, she gives Jack Death a gift she bought him. Technically, she just met him today, and so I'm not sure where she found the time to buy him a gift while they were going on their adventures pretty much non-stop all day. It doesn't matter though, as it's a cool toy that Lena calls Future Man. I wouldn't have thought Jack Death was the kind of guy who would care about a little animated toy, but he seems to love it, which, hey, I would too. While their romance in the movie may not be what you'd call very fleshed out, it's still endearing, and little details like the Future Man toy as a gift make it that way. McNulty appears here, only it's not the character we know as played by Art LaFleur. This is because McNulty had to come in the form of a little girl, I assume because this was the only ascendant he could find of his on such short notice. McNulty tells Jack that he needs to come back to his time and speak with the only remaining council chairperson, Ash. Jack Death doesn't want to hear it now as he's about to put some moves on Lena and also has a good lead on protecting chairperson Ash's ascendant. He removes little child McNulty and gets back to business with Lena, but before Jack can seal the deal, little McNulty reappears and shoots Jack with an antidote dart that transports him back to his natural time and body. Back in 2247, McNulty tells Jack that he's taking his badge and removing him from the case since now 2 of the 3 council members are dead. Councilperson Ash echoes this sentiment until Jack tells her that Lena is going to lead him to Ash's ancestor so that he may protect him. This sways Ash's mind and she makes the decision to let Trooper Jack Death go back to the past one more time. However, when he arrives back, he's disappointed to see that his ancestor has already done the deed with Lena again for the night, so poor Jack Death has missed out on an experience that he doesn't hide his desire for. There's an entire implication here that I'm not even going to touch because after all, this is a Christmas movie. He does get a reload of that cool little watch button gimmick that will slow down time for him, so that's cool at least. The first thing Jack does when he gets back is watch some TV where he sees Lieutenant Whistler announcing a new program that will basically allow him to track all the citizens in the area. This feels like a clear threat to Jack Death and mainly to Ash's ancestor, and so Death and Lena take off to find the ancestor of the final council member. By the way, Lena knows how to hotwire motorcycles. Jack and Lena encounter 3 homeless men, and these guys are either wise men or kind of out of their minds. Either way, Jack Death and Lena play along with the 3 wise men gimmick to see where they can find Ash's ancestor. This encounter is strange, but according to Jack Death, that's what being a cop is all about. I love the synth score in this scene as Jack takes off to the old paper mill alone, where the 3 wise men said he'd find Ash's ancestor. He tells Lena to stay behind because he doesn't want to put her in any more danger. After all, after knowing her for about a day and a half, he loves her just as much as he loves his now dead wife. Whistler has all the cops who work beneath him under mind control as they prove time and time again they are ready to shoot and kill anyone for any reason under his command. When these cops run into Death, Jack pretends to be a drunk homeless man. However, a few moments after their interaction, these cops realize that it was Death, and one tranced cop eventually corners him. However, he gets blasted when Lena shows up, saving Jack. We jump to another corner of the paper mill where all the homeless men, who of course have to also be constantly severely intoxicated, play their drunken baseball game with anything they can find that resembles a baseball bat or a ball. It's kind of amusing, I guess, and it's certainly not boring. Lena reveals to Jack that she retrieved his time-stopping watch back when the trance police officer was going to kill him and he thought he'd lost it. After that, the two make out for a little while. Jack and Lena, I mean, even though Jack starts out by saying he doesn't have time for that. Jack and Lena finally run into Ash's ancestor, showing him the baseball card that Death was given to track him down. Not long after this, Whistler and his tranced officers show up as well, announcing that they want to kill Ash or they'll just kill all the homeless people. I was hoping Ash's friends would stick up for him, but they immediately sacrifice him to Whistler, whose men just straight open fire. Jack, Lena, and Ash narrowly escape as Whistler and his men fire their weapons and charge in pursuit. This is a cool scene as Jack decides that he and Ash should split from Lena in order to get away. So the two and Ash part ways on separate motorcycles, which leads to a fun little car chase. Death, Ash, and Lena all reunite at Lena's place in Chinatown. Just need to take a moment to say Lena is a real champ in this movie and does way more than her part. We get another moment between Jack Death and Lena. He tells her about how his wife died and how he doesn't want to lose Lena too because he loves her. The drunken Ash Ascendant is drunk and because of his homeless situation, smells really bad. Yeah, I know, this movie doesn't do a lot for homeless people, I guess, but Jack Death does a lot for Ash as he forces him to take a shower because of how bad he stinks. They literally just dump him in a tub fully clothed and spray water on him like an animal. Despite this, Jack Death is still the coolest. Jack calls Whistler on the phone and tells him that he'll give him Ash and everything he wants in the future down the line, as long as he could have his life with Lena. Lena is upset that Death would sacrifice Ash's life and the whole future until she realizes that Jack is playing a trick on Whistler. Next, Lena is shown with binoculars spying on a building when Whistler creeps out of the shadows, grabs her with a gun to her head, and tells her to call out for Jack Death. A decoy, Ash dressed as Jack, is spotted down on the street by Whistler, but it's really Ash who quickly gets out of harm's way as Death and Whistler have their big showdown with Lena's life on the line. Whistler throws Lena off the top of the building, which is weird since she was his main bargaining chip, but Jack uses his time watch to zipline down to the street in time to catch her. Ash then throws beer bottles at Whistler until he just sort of falls off the building into a fountain, where Jack has him cornered. Whistler reveals to Jack that his ancestor, whose body he's possessing, is actually an innocent man with 6 children. Just because his descendant, hundreds of years down the line, turns out to be really evil doesn't mean that he was. So now how's Jack supposed to shoot him? The plot thickens when Jack realizes one of the antidotes in his gun to bring both him and Whistler back to the present, where Whistler is now dead, is broken. He only has one left. So Jack Death's options are this. He could shoot Whistler, but then he'd be killing an innocent man as well as his arch nemesis. He could also give Whistler his last antidote, but then he'd be stuck in the 1980s even though he sent Whistler back to his death. This is quite a dilemma for Jack. As we know, Jack loves Lena, and so he makes the choice to get rid of Whistler once and for all by using the only remaining antidote to send Whistler back to the future where he's already super dead. Lena and Jack share a kiss, and McNulty appears in his ancestor's child form to observe Death's choice to stay with Lena in 1985. We then cut to credits.
Hey friends, I just wanted to interrupt to say that if you've heard the synthwave music in the background, that's from White Bat Audio and specifically Karl Casey. I just wanted to give him credit and give White Bat Audio credit for the amazing background music. It's copyright free and royalty free. If you go to their YouTube page, even if you don't have anything that you need to use music for copyright free reasons, it's just great music to listen to. So I had to give Karl Casey a shout out and White Bat Audio.
Trancers stands as a testament to the creative prowess that can emerge from low-budget filmmaking. With its unforgettable characters, inventive storytelling, and the indomitable perm of Tim Thomerson's Jack Death, the film has earned its place in the pantheon of cult classics. The production and casting choices, driven by a commitment to storytelling over spectacle, have left a lasting legacy in the world of science fiction cinema. Thomerson's portrayal of the grizzled detective Jack Death is a standout element of the film. His deadpan delivery and rugged charisma added depth to the character. The decision to cast Thomerson proved to be inspired, as he brought a unique blend of toughness and humor to the role, becoming synonymous with the character. I know that's how I'll always remember the guy now. Helen Hunt's performance in Trancers is a standout element of the movie, adding a punk rock charisma to the gritty and time-traveling world of Jack Death. Playing the role of Lena, a punk rocker with a rebellious streak and a wardrobe that screams anti-establishment, Helen Hunt brings a refreshing energy to the film. As we discussed before, Trancers has attained a cult status over the years, and Helen Hunt's performance as Lena is a key factor in the film's enduring appeal. Michael Stefani delivers a fairly memorable and chilling performance as the menacing cult leader Martin Whistler. Stefani's portrayal of the time-traveling villain adds a layer of campy malevolence to the film, making him a standout antagonist in the sci-fi noir narrative. With a perfect balance of charisma, menace, and nuanced villainy, Stefani's performance contributes significantly to Trancers' reputation as a cult classic within the realm of 80s sci-fi cinema. The film seamlessly captures the essence of two distinct eras: the bleak and dystopian 2247 Angel City, and the vibrant, fashion-forward landscape of Los Angeles in 1985. The contrast between these worlds provides a visually dynamic backdrop to the narrative. The filmmakers skillfully utilize 80s fashion, music, and set design to transport the audience through time, creating a nostalgic feast for fans of the era. In conclusion, the aesthetics of Trancers play a pivotal role in creating an immersive and visually captivating cinematic experience. The film's nostalgic embrace of 80s culture, combined with its noir-inspired visual style and inventive practical effects, make it a timeless gem for fans of both retro aesthetics and inventive filmmaking. Trancers is an enjoyable example of the creativity in crafting a memorable and visually distinct piece of genre cinema. It's an even better example of a good Christmas movie. Well, that just about does it for this retrospective. If you're a fan of Trancers, I really hope that I've done this movie justice. I love this movie, and I really enjoyed examining it a little deeper after I watched it for the first time. Oh, by the way, this is a Christmas movie. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for getting lost in video. See you next time.
You're our only hope, and it's on my terms.